As Nathan and Isabella's story unfolds, we're reminded that love can bloom in the most unexpected places. Where in the world are you watching this from? Drop your city or country in the comments. We'd love to know where our stories are reaching hearts. And if this tale moved you, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. Tomorrow brings another special chapter you won't want to miss. One story can change everything. Will the next one be yours? It was nearly midnight in downtown Los Angeles, and the city was still alive, flashing billboards, humming traffic, and the faint rhythm of jazz drifting up from a rooftop bar somewhere below. Nathan Cruz, the 35-year-old CEO of a booming tech empire, sat alone in his corner office on the 45th floor. He was reviewing contracts worth millions, sipping from a glass of aged bourbon, and surrounded by sleek furniture that screamed wealth and power. He had it all: money, fame, and the kind of reputation that made people nervous to say no. Women adored him, magazines followed him, and his smile alone could close billion-dollar deals. But that night, something shifted. He heard a quiet sound outside his door, the soft drag of a mop across polished marble floors. He glanced up, mildly annoyed at first, wondering why maintenance was working so late. But when he stepped out to investigate, he didn't expect what he saw. There she was, a young woman in her late 20s, wearing a simple gray uniform, hair tied up loosely, and eyes that held more calm than he had felt in years. She wasn't rushing or trying to hide. In fact, she didn't even flinch when he approached. She just looked up, gave him a polite nod, and continued cleaning like he was just another late-night worker. Nathan blinked. He wasn't used to being ignored, especially not by women. Usually, when he entered a room, conversations stopped. But this woman, whoever she was, kept mopping like his presence meant nothing. "Late night for both of us, huh?" he said, testing the waters. She glanced up again. "Looks like it," she replied with a soft southern accent. Floors won't clean themselves. Something about her answer, honest, unbothered, intrigued him. It wasn't flirtatious, but it wasn't cold either. It was real. "What's your name?" he asked, stepping closer. "Isabella," she replied. "And you must be Mr. Cruz." He raised an eyebrow. "You know me." She gave a half smile. "You own the building." "Kind of hard not to," he laughed, genuinely amused, and for a moment, the tension of his world boardrooms, deadlines, shallow relationships faded just a little. Isabella returned to her work, but Nathan didn't leave. He stood there watching her, something tugging at the back of his mind. She didn't try to impress him. She didn't ask for anything. She wasn't like the others. And in a life full of noise and glitter, her quiet presence felt strangely loud. That was the first night Nathan Cruz noticed Isabella Reyes, not as a cleaner, not as another employee in the background, but as a woman who saw through his title, through the wealth and charm, and simply treated him like a man. And that, as they say, was the beginning of something neither of them expected. Nathan Cruz couldn't stop thinking about her. After that brief hallway exchange, something about Isabella Reyes stuck with him, like a quiet echo that refused to fade. The next night, and the one after that, he made sure to stay late. Not because of work, but because he hoped to catch her again. And he did. Each time, it was the same. She'd be mopping the marble floors or wiping down glass walls, humming to herself like the weight of the world wasn't resting on her shoulders. He started bringing her coffee hot, simple, black, just how she liked it. She never asked for it, never expected anything, but she'd accept it with a small nod and a quiet thanks. They talked, more and more. Little things at first: weather, music, her favorite late-night radio station. She told him she used to work at a diner back in Texas and moved to LA to start fresh after her mom passed. No drama, no pity party, just facts, told with a calm strength that made Nathan's usual small talk feel shallow. Then one night, he tried to impress her. He casually mentioned the private jet he was flying to New York the next morning. Most women would have leaned in, played curious, maybe asked where he stayed, or joked about coming along. But Isabella just smiled faintly and said, "Hope the weather's clear over the Rockies. Gets rough this time of year." Then she went back to cleaning a stubborn spot on the floor. He was thrown. No flirting. No interest. Not even a question about the plane. It was the first time in years Nathan Cruz felt invisible. Not because he wasn't noticed, but because someone finally saw through him. And that, strangely, made him want her attention even more. So the next week he tried harder. He mentioned a gala he was attending. He even hinted that he could pull some strings if she ever wanted to do something more. Fitting, she paused, turned to face him, and said something he wasn't ready for. "Do you always assume people want to be saved from the life they worked hard to build?" Her words landed like a slap he didn't see coming. Nathan stood there, stunned. No one talked to him like that, not board members, not investors, definitely not women. But she did. And the worst part? She wasn't angry. She was calm, clear, like someone who knew exactly who she was and refused to be redefined. That night, he didn't sleep. He realized she didn't just reject his money, she challenged the foundation he built his identity on. She didn't want his wealth. She didn't care about his power. What mattered to her was character, how a person treated others when no one was watching. For the first time in a long time, Nathan Cruz, billionaire, playboy, boss, felt like a student. And Isabella Reyes. She wasn't just cleaning his floors. She was sweeping away everything fake in his world. And he couldn't look away. Nathan Cruz wasn't the kind of man who changed easily. For most of his life, he had been in control of boardrooms, women, the media. People adjusted to him, not the other way around. But after that moment with Isabella, when she looked him in the eye and asked if he always assumed people wanted saving, something inside him cracked. Not in a dramatic, fall-on-your-knees kind of way, but like a quiet fracture in the mirror. He'd been admiring himself in 4 years. He started showing up at work earlier. Not to catch her before she left, she always worked nights, but because he wanted to earn back something he wasn't even sure he ever had, substance. He didn't flirt, he didn't brag, he just listened. His assistant noticed it first. "You okay, sir? You've been different lately." He didn't answer, because how do you explain to someone that a janitor with kind eyes had unraveled the empire of your ego without even trying? He started walking the building more. Not because he was checking on employees, but because he wanted to see the people he'd overlooked for years. He asked names. He held elevator doors. And one night, he even sat in the break room with a couple of night shift security guards, drinking vending machine coffee and laughing about nothing. It felt foreign and strangely good. But change doesn't come without resistance. At a weekend party in Malibu, surrounded by Hollywood elites, someone asked him where his usual date was, some model with 500,000 followers. Nathan just smiled and said he wasn't bringing anyone. The table went quiet for a beat, then someone joked, "Don't tell us the great Nathan Cruz has gone soft." He didn't laugh, because it wasn't softness, it was clarity. For the first time, he didn't feel the need to prove anything to anyone. Back at the office, he and Isabella kept talking, not about fancy things, but about real things. Books, regret, faith. She challenged him, again and again, and not with harshness, but with honesty. She'd say things like, "That's not real kindness, that's PR," or "You listen, but are you really hearing?" And slowly, painfully, he started hearing. He stopped dating for show. Stopped saying yes to things that didn't mean anything. His calendar cleared out, not from a lack of business, but because he was saying no to distractions. His therapist, someone he'd only visited twice before, told him, "This woman's not just teaching you how to feel, she's holding up a mirror. That's why it's uncomfortable." And it was. But he wanted it, needed it, because Nathan Cruz, for the first time in his carefully curated life, didn't want to be the man who had everything. He wanted to be a man who meant something. And somewhere between those cold marble floors and late-night conversations, with a $15 an hour janitor, the playboy began to disappear. One ego, one mask, one lie at a time. The break room at 1:17 a.m. was hardly romantic, buzzing fluorescent lights, a humming fridge, and the stale scent of microwave burritos lingering in the air. But to Nathan Cruz, it had become something else entirely. It was where Isabella sat most nights during her 15-minute break, sipping black coffee from a chipped ceramic mug with a tiny crack on the handle. And lately, it was where Nathan found himself sitting too, in a tailored suit. No tie, sleeves rolled up, his Rolex awkwardly out of place against the scratched linoleum table. He never told her, but those 15 minutes were the most honest part of his day. They didn't talk about money, or status, or who he used to be. Instead, they talked about childhood's hers, filled with dusty Texas roads and family dinners after church. His, lonely despite the penthouse views and private tutors. She told him how she used to dream of being a writer. He admitted he had no idea what he actually loved, outside of winning. One night, he asked, "Do you ever feel like you're meant for something bigger?" Isabella looked at him, took a slow sip of coffee, then said, "I think everyone is. The question is, do you want something bigger, ... or just something louder?" That hit him harder than any boardroom failure ever had. From that night on, their conversations deepened. They talked about fear, hers of being invisible, his of being seen too clearly, about faith, disappointment, forgiveness. Sometimes, they sat in silence, and even that felt meaningful. But it wasn't just what they said, it was how they said it. There was no pretense, no performance. Isabella wasn't trying to impress him. And Nathan, for once, wasn't trying to be impressive. He started staying later, but not just to talk. He began to help moving boxes in the storage closet, replacing a broken vending machine light, even mopping one night when her back was sore. The security team thought he was having a breakdown. His executive team thought he was hiding a scandal, but Nathan didn't care. For the first time in decades, he was simply present. Then came the night, everything shifted. They were sitting side by side, Isabella with her coffee, Nathan with his thoughts. When she asked softly, "Do you think you're capable of being loved if you lost it all?" the question hit him like cold water. Not because he didn't know the answer, but because deep down, he did. He stared at her, heart pounding, unsure of what to say. And in that silence, something unspoken passed between them, not quite love, not yet, but something sacred. A knowing, a fragile truth. And though they didn't touch, didn't kiss, didn't even move, the air between them felt electric, as if the world had shifted ever so slightly on its axis, drawing them closer, in a way that had nothing to do with destiny, and everything to do with choice. Nathan Cruz was falling, not fast, not loud, but real. And for once, that was enough. After that night, the one where Isabella asked if he could still be loved without everything, Nathan Cruz changed. Not suddenly, not dramatically, but in small, quiet ways that only someone like Isabella would notice. He stopped talking about his wealth entirely. No more casual mentions of private jets, luxury cars, or the seven-figure deals waiting in his inbox. He started asking about her dreams more than he talked about his. He even began showing up to work in jeans and sneakers, shedding the image piece by piece, as if trying to meet her on the ground where she stood. But despite everything that had passed between them, the long talks, the emotional shifts, the electricity in the air, Nathan still hadn't said it. Not out loud. He was terrified that the moment he confessed how he felt, she'd pull away. Not because she didn't feel it too, but because maybe she couldn't afford to trust someone like him, not after years of being invisible to the world he came from. One night, as she wiped down the vending machine glass, he said it. "I think about you more than I should." She paused, eyes still on the glass, and whispered, "I know." It was the most beautiful and painful two-word answer he'd ever heard. He moved closer. "But I'm not that guy anymore. I don't want the noise. I don't want the flash. I just want real." This time, she looked at him. Real doesn't mean easy, Nathan. It means showing up when it's uncomfortable. It means not hiding behind your bank account when things get hard. Can you do that? He didn't answer right away. Because it wasn't a rhetorical question. And then he nodded. "I'm trying. Every day." That was the night she let her guard down, not all the way, but enough to sit beside him with less space in between, enough to let her shoulder brush his, enough to let silence carry something unspoken but powerful. Still, not everyone understood. Rumors started. The board noticed his shift in priorities. His assistant told him flat out, "People think you're falling in love with the janitor." He didn't deny it. He just smiled and said, "Then they're finally paying attention." And the truth was, he was falling. Not into the fantasy, but into the real. Into a woman who made $15 an hour, rented a tiny apartment 20 miles outside the city, and had zero interest in being saved. She wasn't his arm candy. She wasn't a project. She was a mirror, a compass, a reminder of everything he'd forgotten about life before money blurred the lines. And when he finally held her hand, days later, quietly, after her shift, it wasn't in a grand gesture under chandeliers or city lights. It was in the loading dock, behind the building, with the hum of streetlights and the smell of asphalt in the air. That's where it began. A love without a spotlight. A love without a price tag. A love that finally made him whole. What would you do if someone from a completely different world looked past your surface and saw the real you? Nathan and Isabella's story reminds us that love isn't always wrapped in luxury. Sometimes it's found in the most unexpected places, in the quietest moments, with the most unlikely people. Now we want to hear from you. Have you ever experienced a connection that defied status, income, or social expectations? Or maybe you've been in a situation where someone challenged you to grow, not by force, but through their quiet strength. Share your thoughts in the comments below, whether it's your own story, a moment that moved you, or just your feelings about Nathan and Isabella's journey. We'd love to read it. And don't forget to tell us where in the world are you watching from. It's always amazing to see how far these stories reach. Your voice matters here. So let's keep this community real, supportive, and full of heart. Hit that comment box and let's talk about what real love means to you.